Pope Francis is, okay, I'll say it, he's a rock star. So perhaps it's fitting that a fading star used the Pope's luster to sell his message. President Obama appears to be doing just that. According to the Los Angeles Times, the president asked a White House speechwriter to add a reference to the Pope in a speech earlier this month. He did.
Some of you may have seen just last week, the Pope himself spoke about this at eloquent length. How can it be, he wrote, that it's not a news item when an elderly homeless person dies of exposure, but it is news when the stock market loses 2 points?
Now, the president was talking about how the income gap is eroding the American dream. With me now, Will Kane, columnist for The Blaze and CNN commentator, and Marc Lamont Hill, also a CNN commentator and host for HuffPost Live. Welcome to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to be here.
Okay, Marc, let's start with you. President Obama wants to raise the minimum wage to $10 an hour. Can the Pope help him do it?
I'm not sure if the Pope can help him do it. This isn't like 40 years ago where there was a quote-unquote Catholic vote where you could sort of predictively say that courting the Pope would help you. But I do think that speaking to the issue of poverty, not just in the United States but around the globe, resonates with people. And the Pope has managed to do it in masterful fashion. But of course, the Pope doesn't have to face political opposition and partisanship.
No, but that's true. Well, the Pope's approval rating is at 88%. The president has been praising him in other interviews as well. The question is, would Pope Francis embrace President Obama? Would he want his message politicized?
You know, that's a good question. I don't know if Pope Francis is giving just a message of morality and charity, or if he's giving one that's political philosophy. What I would say is President Obama is blatantly trying to change the subject. You pointed out that Pope Francis is a rock star, and I think you said President Obama is a fading star. Yeah, he'd like some of that 88% approval rating, and he's attempting to do that, to turn the conversation away from Obamacare, to remind people, hey, remember, can we talk about, and I've joked about this with Mark, can we talk about how Republicans hate poor people? Can we get back to that and not this health care thing I've screwed up so massively?
Well, Mark, you know, other presidents...
Well, they're actually not competing claims. I was going to say they're not exactly competing claims.
Because Obamacare has been so good for the
Republicans are opposed.
Well, Mark, what I was going to say...
It's been a lot better than not having it.
Other presidents have embraced the Pope. For example, George W. Bush borrowed Culture of Life from Pope John Paul, remember that, to protest abortion. And it kind of worked for him, didn't it?
Well, it works until it doesn't work anymore. Reagan got great support from Pope John Paul II on the Soviet bloc in terms of its role in Eastern Europe. But then the moment the Pope says, hey, wait a minute, what about those nuclear weapons you keep ramping up? All of a sudden, Reagan says, hey, let's leave church out of this. George Bush with the exact same thing with the economy. It's very difficult to use the Catholic Church in a particular way if you're not willing to take the whole message in, because as soon as the abortion conversation comes up, now Democrats are in a pickle themselves. So they have to be very careful in how they use the Catholic Church or any religious tradition.
Well, and the president, for that matter, hasn't actually been in good standing with the Catholic Church over the last several years. You know, we're going to see in front of the Supreme Court in the first half of 2014 an argument over whether or not the government can force employers with Catholic religious doctrines as part of their core being, whether or not they can force them to cover birth control. That's going to go before the Supreme Court. President Obama's had a huge problem with the Catholic Church. I would suggest he be very careful now about adopting economic populism because the Pope gave a speech.
Although the Pope is wants people to stop talking about issues like that, right? The Pope wants people to stop talking about social issues so much, right, and concentrate on other things like helping the poor. So that
which is a social issue. I think sometimes we decide that things like poverty, unemployment aren't social and even moral issues. I think what President Obama is doing wisely is saying, wait a minute, there's a moral agenda and a social agenda that isn't at odds with the agenda of actually helping the most vulnerable citizens. And to Will's point, that's not about changing the subject. President Obama has consistently said we need to address poverty. That's not to say that his social policies always do it properly. I have many critiques of Obama, but he's absolutely not changing the subject. He's trying to get the American people where they need to be, whether it's raising minimum wage, whether it's extending unemployment, or whether it's invoking the Pope's message.
But just to bring this conversation full circle, Carol, you started out, should the president be adopting religious messages to turn them into political messages? And Mark's right that this is ultimately a moral decision, a moral message. And I should point out, look, Americans give to charity at twice the rate of any other country in this world. And if you want to bore into it, American conservatives give 30% more on household than any other group in this country. What we have to define is who is in charge of taking care of the poorest among us. Is it us as individuals and citizens? If that's the message President Obama wants to put out, out, I'm happy and ready to hear that. Or is it at the government's will and the government's force, and there our disagreements come up?
Could it be a little of both, or am I like going way out on a limb?
A little carries a lot of weight.
Could be.
A little of both.
I just wondered. Okay, let's talk about something else
Will
before
wants
you
no
guys have to go. Because I have to show you this picture of these strange political bedfellows. This new video, it shows Snoop Dogg and Secretary of State John Kerry, and they're doing the big fist. Look, they're talking. I wish we could hear what they're talking about because the audio is bad. But look at the fist bump.
You know, I'll tell you, we know Kerry said to Snoop something about he invented the thing you do. He invented your medium. He's talking about rap, I assume. So, Mark, who's Kerry talking about? Who invented it? And Snoop's like, you're right.
I was trying to figure it out because he said he did your whole thing. I just love the fact that John Kerry felt the need to give Snoop a hip-hop education. And by the way, Snoop didn't give John Kerry a pound. John Kerry gave Snoop a pound. Snoop did this. Kerry did this, then he did this. He was unsure that Snoop was going to reciprocate, so John Kerry didn't want to look crazy. I just wish John Kerry looked this cool in 2004. You know, we might have a different president.
5 minutes before that interaction, did Snoop know who John Kerry was?
Oh.
Probably not.
Although I will say, back in the day, Snoop was such a rebel, and now he's hobnobbing with, the government. Just seems odd in some way.
That's a fair point. It's the ultimate in going mainstream.
There's hope for you, Will.
Oh, jeez. Will Kane, Marc, Lamont Hill, thanks so much for being with me.
Yeah.
Still to come in the newsroom.